us today. I'm Derek Hall from Marketing and Communications, and I will be assisting with the Q&A towards the end of this session. If you notice down at the bottom on the right, there's a Q&A button. That's how questions will be submitted. We will not be using the chat function. It will be the Q&A button. So when we get to that, please use that, and we'll be able to pass questions on to President Erickson and Gavin Leach. So with that, President, it's all yours.
Thanks very much, Derek. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate everyone joining in today for the University Forum. And I certainly hope everyone is off to a good start of the semester. I do believe there's snow on the horizon, so I've already heard from wishful folks that we'll have a snow day coming up. That includes me. We'll see. Before I do get started, I do want to welcome two new members of our Northern community. They include Brittany Pollock, who is the new director of the SISU Center. Very excited to have her join us. It is really the Institute for Innovation, and we see a lot of exciting things. I know many folks have worked with Carrie and working on the kinds of stuff that are promoted out of that center. So we're just delighted to have Brittany join us, as well as Elise Burr, who's the director of the NMU Center for Rural Health. Already is just going gangbusters in terms of how we're supporting broad community health issues. And I'm sure you'll be hearing a lot more in the coming weeks and months about what's going on there. So for both of them, we're just absolutely delighted to have you join us today. I thought I'd really get into it and just start right into the end with a COVID update. And as you've been watching the dashboard, you know that our test results heading into this winter semester are very low. We've been doubling our mass screening efforts. We're testing about 300 folks every week. 1 week we do mostly residence hall folks. And then the other week we do mostly off-campus students and employees and so forth. If you haven't signed up for a screen time, please do so. It's a very important part of our process in terms of keeping the campus as safe as we possibly can. Spalding Hall, we got off to a very good start with our initial test everybody coming back and passport to campus. We only had 13 that ended up in Spalding Hall. When you compare this to last fall of 78, that's quite a dramatic reduction. And in fact, if you saw the dashboard today, we're down to 3 folks in Spalding Hall, and we're expecting that to continue to decline. As always, I'm obligated to remind people of the protocols that wearing masks has been a really important part of all of the efforts on campus. And I do want to congratulate the entire university community for wearing masks and being that engaged. Social distancing, washing hands, all of those kinds of things. And then finally, this time of year, if you're not feeling well, don't come to campus. If you have any kinds of symptoms, you help us all out if you stay away. Would point out that Michigan's epidemic order now goes through the February 21st. Based on whatever actions happens next, that could impact some of the decisions that we have in place on visitor restrictions, renting our facilities, and other campus considerations. But for now, at least through the 21st, it's very much status quo. And again, I think all those precautions have continued to serve us very well. Would also point out that Northern will be receiving federal pandemic stimulus funding. I'm going to kick this over to Gavin in just a little bit, and he can mention a little bit about how stimulus funding works. Kind of the long and short of it is that with federal funding comes lots of rules and regulations, and it's not uncommon for them to come out with one set of rules, and then just about the time you're starting to roll it out, they make changes to those rules. That clearly happened to us last time. So but I'll let Gavin address that. And certainly we are spending a lot of time looking forward to fall 2021 and dealing with all the preparations that will take. We are taking a very optimistic approach to the fall, and that is preparing to be fully in person for the start of the semester, but simultaneously realizing that we may have to scale back a little bit if the vaccination levels are low by the time we would open for fall classes. So the consensus was it's easier to plan to be in person and then roll back if we really need to, than to plan to be remote and then realize we can go to in-person learning. So we'll continue to monitor that. We'll continue to keep you posted in terms of how that is progressing, but it's working well so far. I do want to point out part of dealing with COVID is actually being active and engaged and so forth. And I do want to make sure that you're aware of the winter UP campaign, which is a campaign to get community members to stay active, to get outside, to enjoy the great outdoors. And for students, there are all kinds of prizes that are available for being active and so forth. That shouldn't discourage the rest of us that don't qualify for the prizes, but we can certainly all together set the example of being engaged and enjoying the great outdoors. And if it's a day like today, you know, I saw folks with flip-flops on today. You know, it's something about hitting 30 degrees and people think it's flip-flop weather. So you're probably well aware of all the activity that's going on in the Northern Center around vaccinations. The health department is using the center and we're partnering with them, trying to really help them out to make sure that we're providing county-related vaccines. All the signups for those vaccines happen through the county health department. All indications is that's gone really smoothly. And once you get in there, they take you right on through. And so if your lottery number comes up that you're eligible for a vaccine, I certainly encourage you to get that. We're also planning on being a vaccine center ourselves to be able to provide vaccines for our faculty, staff, and students. We're all coordinated with that. In fact, we have the new ultra freezer for the Pfizer dosage. So we're just in line waiting to get vaccines. If that happens, if and when that happens, we'll certainly get communications out. We want to get as many folks on our campus that need a vaccine to get a vaccine. And so I know I'm looking forward to mine. I'm just not quite old enough to be in the queue yet. I guess there are some advantages with age. Let's see. Let me shift a little bit. I want to talk about enrollment and retention. I do want to point out we have about 1,000 fewer people physically on campus this semester, in large part because we made remote learning, teaching, and working available to all this winter, not knowing what the COVID rates would be. And so because we have so many people teaching and learning online, we've seen a reduction there. It's part of our commitment to being flexible to try to help everyone get through the pandemic and provide the format that works best for them on and off campus. And I know it's been a lot of work on the part of faculty and staff and students to make this work and to juggle it. Deeply appreciative, but it is working for us. Our 10th day enrollment just came out, and our enrollment is down this semester 7.4%, which is about the ballpark we thought it would be due to the pandemic. I'm going to let Gavin address some of the budget implications for that. Certainly on the plus side, big shout out to Lisa Eckert and all the folks that work with graduate programs and the global campus, as all their enrollments have done really well and are up. One of the questions that we're trying to understand right now is we've had a number of students That 7.4% in large part represents students who have stopped out, and we'll be doing some analysis to try and find out what their plans are in terms of returning for the fall. One other update, I want to give folks an update on the progress of our board-led initiative on embedded student advisors. We hired and developed 5 student advisors for this this past year in business, biology, chemistry, and then did health and human performance, clinical sciences, nursing, social work. They kind of share within that. That model seems to be working pretty well, although we're developing some quantitative analysis to see what the real impact on it is. The challenge is not knowing, and it's very hard to get a baseline in the pandemic year. So we'll work our way through that. An update wouldn't be complete unless I give you a little bit of an update on Lansing, and this is pretty typical update for February, and that is we just don't know much of anything. We're waiting, to go through all of the processes that happen in Lansing with the governor's budget proposal, and then the House and Senate work through that. Our hope is that we'll be able to know what the state funding level is by late May, and in early June be able to set tuition rates for early summer. We do like setting tuition as early as we possibly can, but again, we're pretty dependent on what happens out of Lansing. So keep your eye out for that as well. We did, of course, get some good news out of Lansing. We did receive capital outlay funding for the Jacobetti complex and our career and technical initiatives. So very excited about that. That process always takes a while to kind of work its way through, and all the regulatory issues and when and how and all of that. But the fact of the matter is that we did get that state funding, and now we'll begin working through the process of how that gets implemented. With that, why don't I kick it over to Gavin, just to see if you have a couple of brief comments, and then let's get to the real meat of this and see what questions folks have.
All right, thank you, Fritz. Yeah, Fritz went over a little bit on the budget, and where we're at is for the year we had planned on about a 4.2% enrollment decline, and we're a little bit above that for winter. Fall, we ended up in pretty good shape on. Winter at 7.4 head count, we're down, and 6.5% in credit hours. So that's a little more than we had anticipated. However, we think as of now, we can make adjustments within the current budget to not move forward with any additional budget reductions. We just need departments to continue to manage their budgets well, which they've done over the last few years. We've appreciated that from the departmental level. But for now, we're looking at, being able to manage throughout this fiscal year, even with a little slightly larger enrollment decline than anticipated. As we look to next year, as Fritz had mentioned, the state budget the executive budget's not out yet. That'll be out in the middle of February. And that'll be sort of the first sign of what will happen for the fall. Again, and then it needs to go to the House and the Senate, and usually to conference sometime after that. And hopefully late May, June, we have a state budget to look for the fall. A big part of what's going to happen in the fall will be, obviously, state appropriation will be one thing. And the other one is enrollment. And so we have to look at what impact this winter's larger decline than anticipated will have on the fall. So that's a challenge that we always need to look at. But overall, on the recruitment side, right now admissions and admits and applications are up on the freshmen. So that's a positive sign. So we'll just need to, as we get more information throughout the winter months here, we'll be able to start focusing in more clearly on what we expect for the fall budget. As far as stimulus money, the feds did release the stimulus money. The university will get about total of 9.8 million, of which 3 million we would be allocating back out, similar to last year with students. However, out of that, we need to wait for final regs. They really post the initial regs, and they get into the detail of what procedurally you're allowed to do with those funds. Once we get a final picture of that, we will have a process for implementing use of those funds, as well as some of the dollars for this year. Obviously, there's a lot of COVID-related expenses that the university incurs with operations this year that we can utilize those funds to cover. But overall, I'd say, you know, for this year, we're in okay shape, and next year, again, we'll be looking to adjust to whatever we need to adjust to as we get more information. And I guess I'll turn it back over to Fritz.
Thanks, Gavin. Just a couple of last comments. One of the things that I do spend quite a bit of time with is talking with state leaders and national leaders and so forth. And I can tell you, I've heard from so many state leaders how impressed they are by the work on our campus and community, and especially by our students to keep Northern a safe place to live, to learn, and to work. I'm also want to give a real shout out to Brad Canale and the entire team at the NMU Foundation. We've really had an impressive level of donor interest in Northern's strategic approach to the pandemic, to growing programs and facilities. And this has led to some really exciting discussions with potential donor investors in what we're doing. Who knows where this is going to take us, but there's some exciting opportunities on the horizon. So stay tuned for that as we work through. Lastly, of course, you've all seen the announcement that our provost, Carrie Schuling, will be stepping down in a year from the provost role, and then has agreed to stay on another year to work on some of the critically important special projects. I'm deeply appreciative of Carrie willing to stay through that second phase. We're just beginning to figure out how we'll begin to make a transition, when we'll do a search. We will do, I'm pretty sure we'll end up doing an interim provost for at least 6 months, but it may be longer. But there needs to be a lot of discussion before we move on with that. With that, Derek, why don't you start feeding some questions?
All righty. Well, we do have numerous thank yous to Provost Schuling, so I just wanted to share that off the top. One question, you mentioned talking to state officials. What about getting faculty and staff in the vaccination process? You know, the category I think is a 1B. Are we having conversations with the state about providing vaccination sooner for employees who are teaching face-to-face with students?
Absolutely. We've been doing a lot of advocacy work around making sure that our faculty and staff are getting vaccinated. We clearly believe, and have expressed this in many different ways to many different leaders at the state, both in government, the health department, and so forth, how important it is for faculty and staff to get vaccinated. And of course, given that we're really literally all set up to do it, we just need the allocation of the vaccine. We keep advocating for that allocation so we can move forward.
Great. Another question about teaching classes. Are professors required to have an online option in their courses?
So what we want our professors to be able to do is to be able to accommodate the needs of our students and to be able to continue to learn if they're unable to come to class, or they've restructured their classes in such a way so that, I've talked to a lot of faculty that are, they have half the class in the classroom, half the class Zoom, then they flip it around. Every class is a little bit different, and our faculty have taken some very different kinds of approaches. The creativity of our faculty, I think, has been extraordinary with that. And I think that's been one of the vehicles that's helped us continue to move forward and continue to keep people as safe as we possibly can.
Great. How about an update on the esports team and the facility
Oh,
down
isn't that
in
cool?
the basement of Harding?
Yeah, I was over there yesterday. First thing I learned is if you walk in there and they're playing a game, they won't talk to you. So, I mean, they're so engaged and engrossed. If you haven't walked in the lower level of Hardin Hall, then you really ought to take a trip over right across from Fierre's. It's a beautiful facility, high-end equipment, and students are doing remarkable. And of course, it's the kind of sport that they're able to continue on even during a pandemic. So they're doing very well as a team. I would never have guessed, I mean, this just shows my age and background, but I would never have guessed esports could have been a spectator sport. But I think it's something that's really kind of interesting to watch. I'm committed to finding the student to sit with me and explain what it is that I'm looking at. And just kind of one last shout out to them. They recently beat Cornell in a competition, and so we're very proud of them for all that they've done to make this work.
Great. Another update on facilities. How about the Jacob Eddy Center renovations and that whole project?
Yeah, that's what we're working on right now. Now that we have the state allocation, it requires that we engage with some pretty in-depth conversations with DTMB, what can be done, how it can be done, sequencing, what all happens. You're going to have to give us just a little bit of time to work out what's all going to be involved in doing that. But my fingers are crossed. My fingers are, we're going to be able to start the construction process, however that's going to look, sometime this summer. So fingers crossed, we'll see.
Great. Here's another question about the vaccine list. Do we know if the housing folks, residence advisors, community advisors, et cetera, are they included in the staff when it comes to the vaccine list?
Yes, they're very much an important part of the staff at the university, and they're very much included. So, again, all we need is the allocation of vaccines, and kind of hoping, we keep advocating, just send us 1,000, we'll take care of this. And we're set. So, we keep pressing. Fortunately, we have really good relations with the Marquette County Health Department. They've been wonderful partners. We've been wonderful partners with them. And so we know that when they become available, we'll get our hands on them.
Great. Here's a fairly short question. Should we anticipate a furlough day decree? Straight up question right there.
Here's the straight up answer. No.
Great.
There's no indication that we will need to do furloughs of any kind. I mean, it's a tool that's available to us. It was a tool that helped us keep everybody employed. I do not know of another university in the state that kept everybody employed, kept everybody on the payroll, kept everybody with their health insurance. We did do furloughs for some, but at the end of the day, we pretty much gave all that money back to everybody, right around Thanksgiving. So, but we do not expect it. Although, I always have to throw in a word of caution that whatever, we're driven so much by what happens in Lansing. We're not anticipating anything, but you just never know what happens.
Okay, next we have a suggestion in the form of a question. Can we hire a different search firm for the provost search?
We haven't even started in onto what that's going to look like. One of the things I'm curious about is I want to find out what the provost market is like. And provost searches, the market fluctuates. Sometimes, there are a lot of people out and available for provost jobs. Some years, really hard. And the one thing I am committed to, though, is hiring the right provost, which means you go into this knowing that if we have to fail the search, we'll fail the search if we don't find the right provost.
Great, appreciate that. Do we have any new academic programs in development, especially wondering about the graduate programs?
Yeah, we pester poor Lisa all the time about different kinds of things that they're exploring. These are very much departmental issues. I'm very excited that working through the process is the rural leadership doctoral program. Very excited that that's making its way through. And different programs are at different stages. So I really hate to get into, announcing too many of them until they've completed the kind of vetting process that's really important. We are committed to shared governance, and we're committed to the role of the faculty voice in this whole process. So I don't want to usurp any of that.
Great. Gavin, you might want to jump in on this question. In 2019, we were approximately $1 million under budget when it came to healthcare costs. Did we come in under budget again for calendar year 2020? And if so, by how much?
I don't have that number off the top of my head.
All right.
Obviously, access to healthcare was a little limited over the year. You don't know if that's just a delay in expenses or what the impact will be, but I don't have any direct numbers on that.
Okay. That was a faculty member asking that question. So if you have a chance to share in a forum coming up, that would be great. Concerning student behavior related to social distancing, mask wearing, those types of things, what are we doing to encourage it? And are we cracking down on that risk in any way? And if so, go ahead, sir.
No, go ahead. It's a very important part of it. And the way you get students to wear masks, like any of us, is to get the kind of buy-in that we've had so far. We've not had many direct cases, but I tell you what, Chris Greer and the Dean of Students has certainly used the student code of conduct and the requirements that do that. We are hiring a small team of ambassadors to help monitor a few trouble spots. Sometimes, friendly reminders out there are really important. I think when if we do see on rare occasion when someone's not wearing a mask, I think we all have an obligation to pleasantly remind others how important that is, to be able to put your mask on. And I've certainly been known to stop people and provide a level of encouragement with that. But the indication so far is really good. Do we have a few outliers? Yes, we will continue to monitor and continue to do everything we can to have people wear masks. And if people are blatantly refusing to, then they'll need to find students need to find another place to go to school. And if it's employees, another place to work.
We have numerous questions about availability of vaccines. So when we know more, you'll be announcing that in your weekly emails. How can we expect to find out more?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the moment we know anything, we put everything in place. Dr. Kirkpatrick and the health center is all prepared. The protocols are in place about who gets what when, how we call everybody, how we get people in. It's now just a matter of when we get the allocation, and we don't know when that is. But the moment we do, we'll be out there, and we will really hope that, if you get called to come get a vaccine, that whatever you're doing, stop, get over there at the time that you are called for a vaccine.
Something interesting happened. Two questions came in back to back, both from faculty members, wondering about the possibility of lowering the standard for a snow day.
Lowering the standard for a snow day.
As in as a sunny day.
People that know me know I've threatened I'm in my 7th year. I've always had this dream that I would wake up one morning, it would be a beautiful sunny day with several inches of fresh snow. That's when I want to call a snow day, so that we can all go out and play and enjoy the snow. We tried to figure out ways in which we could build some break time in this semester. Giving up spring break that's a hard thing for all of us. And so we want to take an attitude, if there's an opportunity to squeeze a break in on a snow day now and again, we probably should do that.
Great. Do you know if any decisions or when decisions will be made about summer courses and summer camps?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm not sure what the timing is on that. Cindy's next to me. Cindy, do you have any idea?
So we said that in the middle of February, end of February, we'll start looking at trends.
Okay, so middle or end of February, we'll be looking at trends and be in a better position to answer that question.
Great. As we anticipate a full return to campus next fall, optimistic, that's great. How do you see the changes for the possibility of working at home? I mean, the workplace is changing for everyone across the country. How do you see that affecting Northern down the road?
I think it's going to need to be a real point of discussion. I mean, we need to do what makes most sense in serving our students. So that has to be the driving factor in terms of how we think about it. But, I think we've all learned to adapt, and, if people think working from home is the easy way out on working, the times I've tried to work at home, I've found it incredibly difficult to do. Just to stay, focused and concentrated, and frankly, away from the refrigerator when I'm working at home. But I think it's a worthwhile discussion that we should have about what have we learned through the pandemic, and what does that offer in terms of insight and how we ought to be looking to the future.
A follow-up question to that is, are we worried about those changes changing who we are? We talk about being a Wildcat and a family and a small community and coming together. And the COVID has taught us that we can be further apart. Are you worried about that? And what kind of discussions do you think we should have?
Yeah, I do worry about that, because I think, the collegiate experience is about, so much more than what I teach in a class or, what I read in a book or see on a computer screen. It's about a level of interaction. It's like, when I talk to students, I say the 3 keys to success are: get to know a faculty member, join a club and an organization, be engaged, and choose that major for which you have a real passion. And that gets exhibited by being engaged with others. So I think we're all really looking forward to being able to, sit together in the dining halls and be able to stand in line together at Starbucks, and, just all of the opportunities to be together that create the full experience and what it is to be, here in Marquette and to be at Northern Michigan University.
There's a question about students being able to watch hockey. And, the real question is watch hockey games for free, since they're paying for seats through their student fees. Anything new in athletics when it comes to uh, um, fans in the stands and things like that?
Yeah, we're following all of the guidelines out of the state, and so we've got until the uh, um, 21st, and we'll have some indication there. Maybe I can get Gavin to comment a little bit about the fee.
Yeah, basically, depending on where we end up this year for the season, we will have to do some adjustments on the fee that we're taking a look at right now. We're just trying to figure out if we were going to end up having any ability for fans to watch games, but right now it doesn't appear that way.
Right.
So is there a capacity in the Berry Event Center set by the state, or how is that?
Well, yeah, it's being driven by the state health department, and then you've got sort of the individual capacities that happen within different kinds of arenas. If we played hockey in the dome, maybe we'd be able to do a little bit more. But you deal with air circulation systems and all these kinds of things. I think it's highly unlikely that we'll be able to have spectators for our sports. But again, everything is fluid, and we'll just have to continue to monitor it. I have to say it's weird, for everybody. I know it's strange for the athletes playing, hockey in an empty Berry, or the men's and women's basketball teams that are playing in the practice gym. But nevertheless, I give them great credit for hanging in there and making it work.
Sure. The student enrichment office wants me to announce that they're doing hockey viewing for students in Jamrich 111.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's
or
cool.
1100. Sorry. So there is a place to gather in a socially distant way and cheer on the team.
Okay, you can wear your hard hat then.
There you go. Any conversations on study abroad? Have you, on a national level, have you seen anything out there?
Yeah, it doesn't look real promising to be able to start up study abroad, at least through this summer. There are just so many travel restrictions, and the complexity from country to country are just making it virtually impossible to set up and do something along those lines.
Okay, I'm going to out someone here. Someone named Jill says, when is in-person seating going to be available at Tamaki? I want to go to Tamaki. Exclamation point. So
me too. Me too. Gavin, you have any idea? I know we're getting closer on in-person seating in a couple of the dining facilities.
I don't have an update on that right now, but I'm sure dining services, as soon as they're ready to get something out there, they'd be happy to have students also. So we'll make sure that gets out to the campus community as soon as possible when that is coming.
Well, we've got this wonderful new Wildcat Den. I'm anxious to go sit over in the Wildcat Den and have something to eat and drink.
We did a photo shoot of the menu and we got to taste it afterwards. It was fabulous. So
yeah.
I'll just give that. Are we intending to make vaccinations mandatory for employees or for all faculty, or?
Our intent right now is no. That doesn't mean we don't strongly encourage everybody to do that. That could change. I'm not anticipating that changing. But I do think, for me, look, I haven't been vaccinated, but the moment someone tells me I'm eligible to get vaccinated, I'm going to go get vaccinated. And so I really do encourage people to be vaccinated, but I do not see at this point a need or a path to mandate vaccines.
How about a way for NMU to thank our healthcare workers and others in the community that are really leading the way?
Yeah,
Um,
they've done we've tried to do some things. I don't know if you saw the big banner we stuck up in front of the hospital, thanking all the healthcare workers there. We sent off to the hospital and several other health agencies, the giant dining service cookies. They're about 2,500 calorie cookies. So, we loaded them up. We sent thousands of cookies out to folks. And anybody has any good ideas on how we can thank those folks, let us know.
Absolutely. And a lot of them are our students and
Yeah.
our faculty, from our health fields. So,
Well, I tell you, we've had so many students out of the health sciences programs that have been engaged in serving the community, whether they're nursing students, clinical lab science students. I mean, just across the board, they've just stepped up and done remarkable work in supporting the healthcare initiatives in our community.
looks like we're getting down to the end of the questions.
All right.
One last pitch, if you have a last question. I do have a comment. I will not out this person, but say they are probably one of our folks that's enjoying the remote work. This is my favorite forum ever. So you got that, President Erickson. I'm not sure what that implies, but
I think we're all just getting used to being on Zoom. That's probably a scary thing, but I mean, we all spend so much time staring at computer screens and figuring out how it all works. We've become so adept at it. But I don't think, for this is just a personal comment, there's nothing better than talking to someone face to face, to being engaged face to face, teaching a class where you get to really look in the eyes of all your students and be able to change, you see a facial expression and you go over something again, to chat after class, all of those things. That, as good as we're getting at this technology, nothing replaces being face to face. Sorry, editorial comment.
no, that's great. One last question. What positive stories have you heard in the area of enrollment, talking to future students and their parents, and excited to come to Northern?
Oh yeah, I tell you what, there still is an enormous amount of excitement about coming to Northern. We, like virtually every other university, have seen a blip in enrollment, but not a blip in enthusiasm. I mean, I've heard from so many parents and students have said, we're not coming this year. We're delaying, but boy, we can't wait to be there next year. And that's a very encouraging thing to see. People recognize what kind of university we have, how we contribute to our community, the way we support our students, the kinds of lifestyle that the students get to have. And I think that's pretty broadly recognized. So I see an incredibly bright future for us.
Great. All righty, looks like we're going to wrap up. I'm going to thank Gavin.
No parking questions? This is the best.
We'll get some email to you pretty quick. We had one come in really quick. Any chance we might use savings from the recent buyouts to implement some of the strategic resource SRA plans?
Yeah, I think one of the things we're going to really get after here in the coming weeks is to really take a look at some I think we're really in need of a comprehensive strategic plan. And to be able to move through a strategic planning process in short order so we can continue to make the kinds of investments that have really driven the university and supporting our students forward. So the answer isn't specific to one pot of money or the next, but it's really the overall strategy for how we continue to invest in the future of the institution.
Okay. I will thank Gavin for joining us. I will encourage everyone to be safe tomorrow. And President Erickson, you have the last word, and then we will conclude.
Thank you all very much. It's always strange to have a town hall meeting without seeing anybody, but I just can't say enough about how impressed I am about our university community, how we've not only managed COVID-19, but how we continue to be a community supporting one another.
All righty. Everyone, have a great day.